Legacy of Kain Defiance was originally released in 2003 on PlayStation 2 and Xbox as the fifth and final entry in the series, culminating from events spanning from two series. That said, the series has gone through many changes with each entry, from gameplay to a very convoluted story that grew more confusing as it continued. Defiance starts off where the last game ended, with a bloodthirsty vampire lord, Kain, chasing a wizard for reasons that aren't too clear. While exploring, Kain finds upgrades for his health and attacks. After the first chapter, the game switches to Raziel, Kain's former lieutenant who is somehow even more dead than a vampire. He desires to escape the confines of the underworld to rid his bindings and run free. By the way, if it sounds vague as to what the character wants, the answer doesn't present itself in-game. Games like this at the time provided manuals for players to read over to learn the history of the world and characters that inhabit it. The controls were difficult to figure out, only using trial and error as guidance. But even after figuring it out, the controls are awkward to say the least, and the options menu offers very little to remapping them. Working with what it offers, depending on the player, you can adapt, but the controls are still busy with some of the buttons relayed to the computer keyboard for access. The differences between the two characters' gameplay are minimal. They mirror the same abilities, except one jumps, one flies, one sucks blood, and one sucks souls. One of the most annoying obstacles working against the game is the camera. Unlike most games today that give you complete autonomy over the camera, this works with fixed angles, making it hard to judge platforming and oncoming enemies on and off screen. You won't know what enemies are present until projectiles are thrown at you, and even after you are aware, there isn't a way to judge how many enemies you have left, leaving you vulnerable to more attacks. The world of Nosgoth is very much inspired by popular fantasy of its time. It has the weirdness of Mortal Kombat and the aesthetic and color palette of movies like 2003's Van Helsing. That was silly. One of the higher quality features is the focus on vocal performance. Despite the confusing story, the performances propel the story forward. Since the world is devoid of an ensemble, most of the time the characters narrate their feelings and offer direction where the player needs to investigate next.
I hated to restore his dignity, but I would need to return this to his monument before I could progress.
At last, I discovered a conduit into the material realm.
For its time, the acting is decent and manages to deliver cheesy dialogue with a bit of charm. Although Legacy of Kain Defiance stands as a product of its time, with its linear level design, awkward camera, and paper-thin story, Defiance makes up for its shortcomings with a lot of action and puzzles that do require some thought. We give Legacy of Kain Defiance a 3 out of 5.